Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for the next chapter with Charlie Hedges, as he explores turning the page on his life and yours.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the next chapter with Charlie. I've got to tell you, we have a great guest in the midst of my personal chaos. This is, as you can see, I don't have my virtual background. This is what my office actually looks like when you really see it. I backed up to a corner, and you can see my crazy painting on my right. I hope it's your right. I don't know, but there's a red wall and a gray wall. And fortunately, next to all this, we have the beautiful Katie Turner. So she is making everything look good. How are you, Katie?
I'm good. How are you?
I am. We don't want to know how I am. Don't even get me started.
Okay.
But Katie is our special guest. Katie is from Alberta. She's in Calgary. And as Katie knows, I used to do a lot of work in Calgary. I spent a lot of time in Calgary. I love Calgary. I love my Canadians. Give me my Canadians. They're the coolest people. But Katie, tell us a bit about yourself so the audience knows as we get going deeper in the show, you know, who you are, that you're a psychologist and you have quite a bit. You do a blog, you have and you have lots of special offerings for people. You're quite involved.
Yeah, well, I do therapy work for clients in Alberta and New Brunswick in Canada, but I've been branching out more for like workshops and kind of group programs beyond just Alberta. So I've wrote a book about like spiritual awakenings. My practice is a little more not kind of common psychology. There's more spirituality based in it. I do a lot of like depth work with unconscious mind, early childhood patterns. It really ranges from people who feel a bit stuck or like are really struggling, or people who want to really kind of connect more with their intuition and live the best life they can.
Why do you think that is so important? You know, intuition has for the last 3 or 4 years been a big subject. All of a sudden, it's all uppercase letters now. It's not smaller case letters of intuition. We are moving. You know, we moved from post enlightenment. We moved from critical thinking to feeling type of thinking. But intuition is different than feeling. I mean, feelings are very involved in intuition. But intuition is this gut thing. Tell me your idea of intuition.
Yeah, so I mean, just so people know a bit about my background, is I was really science skeptical first. I wasn't raised religious or spiritual. If people talked about intuition, spirituality, I thought maybe placebo effect, but I didn't think there was anything really to it. But then I started having my own experiences with it, and it kind of changed how I see reality. And so I think intuition, I do think it's almost a part of ourself that can connect to more of the larger, like, collective quantum field. So it's not just emotion. Our emotions can actually throw us off. Usually, for some people, it does tend to come through a dominant sensory gateway. So that gut feeling, that can be some people's dominant type. Might just be, I don't have a good feeling about this person, don't really know why. But that turns out to be true. With evidence later.
Yeah.
Others, it may be kind of even like seeing things in your mind's eye, things jumping out at you, like a billboard or a message just jumping out and getting your attention. For others, it's like a quiet inner voice or like audio messages jumping out. So it usually comes through a sensory gateway first. And when we know our gateway, we can pay more attention to it. But intuition is beyond our emotions or logical mind. And when it's pure intuition, it's usually just, there actually isn't fear or anxiety attached to it. That's when our own stuff comes up. And I don't know, I'm not sure about like how much has this happened more in recent years, but I do think more and more people are having or talking about experiences that are beyond just kind of rational mind experiences. And it's been happening for a long time, but it is an area that a lot of people don't really talk about publicly because I mean, I'm also a mental health professional. I understand why people don't because our diagnostic of mental disorders, like the DSM, doesn't have a lot of places to put intuitive experiences. It's like,
Oh,
okay,
really?
talking or
Really?
seeing things that aren't there, it often gets flagged as psychosis. Or there's like a little section at the back. So many people who are actually like well grounded, professional, they may have these experiences, might be just a sense of knowing, dreams, like psychic experiences, but we're aware of like how kind of quote unquote crazy it can sound. So many people don't actually share it with others, where I think that is starting to change.
Yeah, spirituality in general is becoming, it is sort of taken over after the decline of dominance of doctrinal Christianity.
Right.
That spirituality, that certainly, I'm not saying that doctrinal Christianity is not spiritual. There's a lot of spirituality, but it is different than the kind of spirituality you're talking about.
Yeah, well, and religion can be more of this practices that are part of the group, that are part of what you belong to. And spirituality is really a personal relationship with something greater, whether it's source, God, universe, like whatever you want to call that. So you can be religious and spiritual, or you could be religious and not actually have a strong spiritual connection.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
could be spiritual without being religious too. So because
absolutely,
I do
absolutely.
think it's that like prayer piece, we can put things out, like ask for help, but that intuition is like that God source, the universe communicating back to us or guiding us directly. And the world's getting
Absolutely.
crazier and crazier, so if we're looking for security outside of ourselves or outside of that connection, it's harder to find that.
Well, yeah, I don't think the total security is within ourselves. I believe, and I use that term you're looking for, whatever you call it. The term I use is the divine, and
Mm-hmm.
so that fits sort of all doctrinal.
Yeah.
That fits not only the monotheistic religions, but I just spent 3 weeks in Asia, and that
Mm-hmm.
fits in Asia as well.
Yeah.
Divinity is considered different. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
person. They don't believe.
Yeah.
Buddhism nor Taoism talks about a God. There is not a
Mm-hmm.
being that is a God. As God existed, pre-existed in our Western view,
Mm-hmm.
deity existed before creation of everything, always existed. The Buddhist and the Taoist believe that existence existed
Mm-hmm.
before that existence. There was no beginning to existence. But what I've taken a look at, what's interesting, Katie, is I've taken a look at a comparison of I did this deep dive in 2020. I did this deep, deep, deep dive into late medieval Christian mysticism.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been 1200, 1300, 1400, 1500. St. Francis of Assisi, Bonaventure,
Mm-hmm.
Teresa of Avila, Julian of Norwich, John of the Cross. And that is a whole different kind of Christianity than the Christianity
Mm-hmm.
that we get from pulpits today. It is not very doctrinal, that is very spiritual and very
Mm-hmm.
divinely oriented. And it has one goal in mind, one goal, and that is intimacy with the divine. However you become intimate with the creative source is, and I find that to be not just Christian mysticism, but the Sufis,
Mm-hmm.
the Hindus, and also I found that practices of that, of caring and tenderness and heartfulness, true in the East as well as in the West.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually writing a book on that right now.
Oh, cool.
Does that make sense to you? That kind of idea of the divine and spirituality and
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like that
intimacy.
personal relationship, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you wrote
Mm-hmm.
a post that just caught my attention. well, a blog, I guess you call it, right?
Hmm.
You wrote a blog that really caught my attention, and it was and you were on a teacher's strike at the time, right? Or a teacher's
The
strike was
province was
going
going
on.
through one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, tell me tell me about that. You left us with some questions that I want to do with that
Hmm.
I want to talk about your soul and growth and your
Hmm.
journey, and I want to talk about these questions. You wrote these brilliant questions that made me write back to you because you've been on the show before. Made me write
Hmm.
back to you and say I wanted to have you on the show again. Um, um, Tell me what was the essence? Do you recall the essence of that blog, of what that was about?
Yeah, the main theme was around just, I mean, I'm kind of an overfunctioner, high achiever. That's a lot of who I work with as well. So, talking about this theme that it comes up a lot around when we get into logical mind and ego, there's often this like, I want to get to the next thing and then I'll relax. Um, and we can have these barriers or blocks around, well, how do we actually enjoy the journey? And that doesn't mean we go into laziness or we don't have goals anymore. But I think a lot of people might find more of a spiritual path or look for a deeper meaning when we've done a bit of the rat race of like, when I get the degree, when I get this far in my career, it's like, then I'm going to relax, then I'm going to feel good. But at a certain level, it's like material things and checking off boxes actually doesn't give us that deeper satisfaction and contentment that we think it's going to. We'll usually hit it and blow by to the next target right away with very little pause. I mean, we can get a dopamine rush in the meantime, but I think it's more so the kind of essence around the whole blog post was more about it's not so much like the journey, it's really like the destination is everything. And that doesn't mean we don't have goals because we often have kind of soul calling, genuine goals of places we want to get to. But I think for me, especially as I age and as time goes by, I'm like, I don't want to just blow through everything because you can meet a lot of people. I've worked with a lot of people. I've been there myself where it's like you have a lot of the material success or things that you've wanted to do, but it doesn't mean you have more like peace, harmony, contentment, that you're actually enjoying it more. So at a certain point, it is more of like we need to almost work on our mindset and our ability to kind of hold how do I actually have these goals but enjoy the journey a little bit more. And that may mean we're not it takes us a little bit longer to get there, but we actually can be more present in the process and be taking care of our energy and to the degree that we can control it, of course. Like there's different circumstances for everybody. But I'll kind of use the metaphor of like like a cross country multi day road trip for that. It's like you could get in the car and just have one bathroom break and drive the entire time. And you'd see a lot, you'd cover a lot of miles, but it would probably not be a trip you'd want to take again.
No,
Versus
no.
life is like an ongoing road trip. I think if as long as we're growing and expanding, we're always gonna I'm like, I'm gonna die. I hope I die with things on my to do list and stuff I haven't done and can be at peace with that because it means you're growing. It means you're not stagnating. But there's different energies that can run that. You can be frantic, like not enough. I have to get to the next thing versus like how do I be content in the present and be open to the slower evolving over time to the next milestone.
The great fallacy is the when I get fallacy.
Mm-hmm.
It is when I get, then I will be. And it's just not true because when I get
Mm-hmm.
always leads to I need to get something either more or different or better or new. The when I get, if we
Mm-hmm.
live in that mindset, it never ends. It's just
Mm-hmm.
there is no genuine happiness or fulfillment to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just came back. I told you, I don't know if on the air or before the air, but I just came back from 3 weeks in Asia. I was on a
Mm-hmm.
2 week cruise and we did Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. Then I spent 3 days in Tokyo and 3 days in Hong Kong. So I had my time in the East. And a new
Mm-hmm.
adage came to me. I'd never heard this before. And I never even thought of applying it to the journey motif, but
Mm-hmm.
it really fits. And it says, And it goes this: I no longer take vacations to sightsee.
Mm.
Instead, I take pilgrimages to experience wonder.
Mm.
And that is like life, isn't it? I'm not here to sightsee. I'm not here to get any particular thing, but I'm here just to experience the wonder of life.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, it changed my vacation. It changed the way I looked at things. Um, um, I was going to our questions and I ended up with the last question. To tell everybody I just bought a new computer, so I'm having deep computer problems. Um, that's why I lean forward, because my mouse no longer works. I have to do it off my computer. Um, but anyway, you asked 4 questions, and your first question I liked a lot, and you put to talk about, where does your soul want to grow, and how do you want to feel during this growth process? I think that's a question we're talking about right now, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What did you
Yeah.
intend with that?
Well, I think there's like the soul goals. It is almost connecting to that divinity within us, where it's not just an ego mind, because we can get really trapped up in this capitalistic hustle culture of like, oh, if I have this money or if I have there, like it's just going to be better, without a deeper thought of, well, what is better about that? And I mean, if it's more of this gives you time freedom and you can use it to do more things you want to do, and it helps you feel a different way, it's like that could be a very valid goal for it. But sometimes I think more, whether it's like corporate ladder or other pieces, like sometimes just continuing to hit the next target or the next logical thing may not bring people the satisfaction they think it's going to. And when it's, whether it's soul or almost like our higher order values, if that's kind of running like, well, why are we chasing something? Is it just for the status? Is it just to say we've done it? Is it just for a raise, even though your workload's double and you're actually making less money per hour for extra stress that maybe you wouldn't have actually wanted if you actually broke it down and looked at it in a different way? Whereas I think soul goals often can be those things of, when we think about our deathbed, it's like, am I going to regret not doing this? Well, I feel like I haven't fully lived without having this experience. Or it might be that lottery question of like, if you won the lottery and you didn't have to work for money, like what would you be doing anyway?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like there's certain
I'm
things in my work where,
did you just use the term soul goal?
I think so, yeah.
I've never heard that, Katie. That's such a great term. I love that term, soul goals. Can I steal that?
Sure. It's not.
It's considered stolen. That is very cool. You know, I retired a decade ago, and at retirement, I noticed 2 big holes in my life. One is I looked at my calendar and I didn't have a lot to do. I had open calendars, so I felt useless, and I also felt bored. That what do I do with myself? And you know, now that I encounter, because I retired earlier than most baby boomers, you know, they're just retiring now, and I've had a decade at it, and they're experiencing precisely the same thing. Those are the questions. Feeling, you know, how do I feel not useless, and how do I make use of my time so I'm not bored, you know, doing the same old stuff every day? Have you talked to retired people who feel that, or maybe
Yeah,
younger people who feel the same thing?
retired, or like I think there's a piece of almost like purpose, or kind of, it's like, what did my soul come here to do? And that's not always work wise, but it might be an experience. Like it might be being part of a volunteer movement, or just something where you get a lot of meaning out of it, and it's beyond just, it gives you a lot of fulfillment, a lot of purpose feeling. And I think the anchoring of like how do you want to feel when you're doing it is it's again that journey of like, do we want to take the 3 day trip with no sleep time and 2 bathroom breaks, or do we want to spread that out a little more and actually have a
Yeah.
fun, like enjoyable journey on
Yeah,
it?
I like that. I think
Hmm.
I think that's really, I think purpose, you know, my show, I do so much on purpose now,
Hmm.
and and I keep doing it over and over again because I think I never get there. I think every
Hmm.
time we do one, we never quite arrive at where I want to arrive. But that has been my thing, is that I once equated productivity
Hmm.
with purpose. And
Hmm.
it is not about being productive. A sole goal is not about being not productive in the normal sense that we use the word
Yeah.
productive.
No. Because it is that alignment, like that inner divine alignment, where if you're doing really well at something, but you're not, your soul and your heart isn't in it anymore, it starts to drain you, or you start to get, you can use mindset hacks, you can use the psychology tricks, but it's usually your energy starts shutting down in it, and you know something's off. Whereas other things, it's like you might be productive, there might be work to do, but if it's like, oh, this is really lighting me up and I feel really called to this path, you get a boost of energy or purpose or feel like you're on the right path, even if there's work involved in that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And as much intuitive work as I've done my entire life, my entire
Mm-hmm.
life has been run intuitively, but it's always been about productivity, getting
Mm-hmm.
shit done. I
Yeah.
call it GSD, uh,
Mm-hmm.
getting shit done, and that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But you're talking about, I'm finding in retirement is something different than that. The purpose is not about getting stuff done anymore. It
Mm-hmm.
really is about experiencing. I'm one of those few people that if I found out I had 5 years to live,
Mm-hmm.
and we just found some things that I'm extraordinarily healthy for my age. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I I feel 20 years younger. My body
Mm-hmm.
is in, I just don't have body things, but
Mm-hmm.
something came up and there was a possibility that there was a 5 year term on
Mm-hmm.
this. And I'm quite comfortable with dying.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived a full life, and I've lost this productivity thing, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
into experience. What is going on?
Mm-hmm.
What can I learn? What can I touch, taste, and feel that is
Mm-hmm.
new and that is fun, that is unique, or that is maybe repetitive that I enjoy doing, like going to
Mm-hmm.
movies. I go to movies at least twice a week, minimum
Mm-hmm.
twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
I will go to the film, to
Mm-hmm.
the theater. Um, but that is, that is that's a purpose driven, vision driven,
Mm-hmm.
not productivity driven goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like it's experiential and it's knowing what you really like as well and what lights you up.
That's harder to find when you're young. Because
Mm-hmm.
it took me a lot of years, buddy. It took it took me
Mm-hmm.
a lot of years. I'm glad you're doing that at your age because to me you're a puppy. You think you're getting old, but you're still, you got a long time to go.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully. Yeah. We never know.
Yeah, you never know,
Yeah.
and
And I
that's the
think
beauty
kids
of it.
kids have it like kids have it so naturally, but we lose it as we get older and then we have to rediscover it in adulthood often.
I like that. You have another
Mm-hmm.
question I wanted to ask, and you put,
Mm-hmm.
what do you want your journey to feel like if you had the ability to control that aspect?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Talk to me about that. What do you want your journey to feel like? Have we already kind of covered that?
I believe we did kind of touch on it where it's like again it's kind of that reflection point or grounding because most of us are taught that goal piece of like, where do you want to get to? And almost like the faster we can do this, the more productive we can do it, the better, where that's not actually true in life. So sometimes it's like, okay, if it might take us, we could do this in 6 months to a year, or maybe it takes us 2 or 3 years, but it's the 2 or 3 years we actually enjoy it. We're not burnt out. We're not snapping at everybody. We're not hating life and just completely emotionally disconnected. And burnout's another area I work with too, because that over functioning piece, it's really easy to work really hard, be really productive, like get so focused on like the productivity or goal that you can not be resting enough or recharging enough in between. But then you just like the cost you pay every time you hit that burnout piece isn't worth it long term.
What is it like? What does burnout look like? What does a burnout person look like? I've never hit
Burnout is
that.
super high right now. So I in all my career, I've always worked with burnout. It's always been an area of specialty for me, but it's I've never seen the rates like I've seen in the last probably 4 or 5 years that I'm seeing now. And I don't know if that's just my practice or life in general, but
What age group are you talking about?
a lot of it's kind of similar. A lot of it's working professionals, parents, but it can be kind of burnout is basically a period of long-term stress where you're putting more energy out than you're getting back in over a longer term. So some people can go for decades before they'll start seeing physical or mental symptoms. Others it may be like months or years, but it's really more it's physical and emotional exhaustion. You get a loss of productivity, you can get brain fog. What it usually ends up getting diagnosed as is when it's more moderate or severe, it's often ends up in a diagnosis of depression, except it's not depression that just came out of
Oh,
nowhere. So this is long-term stress that now the system is basically shutting down. And the importance of knowing the difference too is because most of the general population is pretty educated around anxiety, depression. People will be like, I'm not enjoying things I used to do. I'm isolating, I'm shutting down. I better power through this. And like, because with depression, we want to force ourselves to do things so that we start feeling better later. With burnout, we actually need recovery time. So if we keep forcing ourselves to go out to like spend more energy that we don't have out of that energetic bank account, it's like we're going to make the burnout worse. So sometimes we do need to just like take a vacation or take short-term leave, like, or we need to give ourselves permission to say no to pretty much anything non-essential over time so that we can actually rest and start recovering and naturally getting more of our energy back and feeling more like ourselves again.
what do you think of the movement now? I'm hearing a lot. Tim, are you familiar with Tim Ferriss?
A little bit,
He's
but
he's a
not in
big
depth. Yeah.
podcaster in the
Yeah.
States. Millions
Yeah.
listen to him, and he did a
Yeah.
thing. And it's not the first time he's done it, but he did a thing
Mm-hmm.
on simplicity
Mm-hmm.
and how he wants to simplify his life. What do you think about
Mm-hmm.
simplifying and burnout? Do you think the two work together well?
I think, and again, with that second question, you said, like what you can control. I think there's that piece of everybody's situation is different. So some people, there is like a privilege aspect to it of like, okay, if I can say no to things, if I can actually afford to slow down and like my life's not going to fall apart, I can still pay bills, I have support, then great, slow down. I think sometimes there's just cultural and situational factors too, where if it's someone who's like a working parent and they're the sole provider and most of us don't have a village or a lot of people to rely on, sometimes the burnout rate's just really high because we're holding so much together and there's so much pressure just to kind of survive and exist and be there for your kids.
I don't.
So again, that what you can control is the piece there of like everybody's reality is going to be different. Yeah.
You put in a piece there of the privileged piece, and
Mm-hmm.
I always take offense at that word because it's always talking about white men in America.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you go beyond that, there really is
Mm-hmm.
something. I've just been in no fear. I've had 7 careers probably in my
Mm-hmm.
life,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had no fear of changing.
Yeah.
Just didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Just we had, and it's not like we had a lot of money in the bank. We had
Mm-hmm.
we had enough to last. I always made sure we had enough to last like half a year. That
Mm-hmm.
I would take. I would have.
Mm-hmm.
I could take 6 months to build
Yeah.
up, but I would just stop and do something brand new.
Hmm.
Maybe 20 years ago, I took a decade and I painted.
Hmm.
I can't, Katie, I can't draw stick figures. I
Hmm.
am not
Hmm.
an artist, but I did contemporary painting. And so it
Hmm.
was all abstract. And it was just because I am good at color composition, at composition
Hmm.
in form and
Hmm.
composition in color. And that was so amazing for a decade. I would
Hmm.
spend, this was right after I retired. I'd spend 5, 6 hours a day in my garage, which turned out to be a studio,
Hmm.
and just painting, and just the beauty of that creativity was so wonderful.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think like when you look into kind of the anti-oppression work stuff, privilege is really more it's like the absence of it doesn't mean things weren't hard or that there aren't individual choices, but it can mean like there's these other things that don't make it harder. Cause like I for me, like even just being a white woman, I'm not neurodivergent or like disabled in a way that like would impair my ability to make it harder to be in regular workforces or other things. It's like there's certain privileges I would have that other people aren't starting out at the same point. Just when we look at, and a lot of it when we get into this like multi generational trauma and like colonialization history, it's like we aren't born in the same starting point. So it's not saying that there aren't
Right,
individual things that
right,
we can do, but it's like we're
right.
not our like start line isn't the same. If we come like
That's right.
from our parents and
Absolutely.
back, yeah. And so that's
I
why I
totally
think it's
concur.
some stuff it can be very helpful, but sometimes if it's not nuanced enough, it can like it may not land or it may be kind of gaslighting to somebody of like, oh, just relax or just simplify your life. But it's like, okay, if it's a single mom and there's you're living in a place with no government support, food's getting cut off, it's like you can't really just when you're in
No, and you don't have
survival
six
needs, you
months in
can't
the bank
relax.
like I did.
Yeah. Yeah, and you
Yeah,
likely can't. It's not just personal choices of why you don't have that. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And
Hmm.
you're a single mom as well, right?
Yeah, like I have a co-parent, but I'm the primary. Yeah. Hmm. But again,
That's
I already had an education and a career, so I'm in a different place than it would have been.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
Another one of your questions that I like here was given what we've talked about, so I would like our audience to think about what would you shift if you allowed yourself to take a long-term approach
Hmm.
to a different journey in life?
Hmm.
That's a great question. What would you shift? What kinds of things do you find
Hmm.
people doing? What kinds of shifts are people making?
Yeah, well, I think it is. I can speak to that one even myself too, because I think that intuitive soul piece. When I started my practice, like that was a very intuitive calling one where I wanted to base it off like the spirituality point, like that deeper work. I didn't know if anyone would want it or not, but at that time, my goal was just to like build that and then coast to like do that till retirement and be done, like wrap it up. But
Okay.
in the last few years, I've been getting more intuitive callings around making this type of work available to more people or but I don't know what that's going to look like yet. And when I talk about soul goal, I was like ego, logical mind. I was like I'd like to just not actually part of me would like to just not have to do more. But it feels like I was like, I know I'll regret it if I don't. Like this feels like a calling, and I know enough about when it is that intuitive energy of like if you're not following like
Sure.
where you're being called to go, it's like things are gonna get more uncomfortable or not work, or you might get pushed into that in a way in a dramatic way that you don't want to. So I do try to listen to it more, but with this stage of life too, I'm like, I know that's going to be probably a longer term journey into the unknown and build. So I'm still in the process of trying to be like, how do I start like do things but are also sustainable and take a goal of, I don't know exactly where it'll go. I don't know how long this will take. But how do I want to feel when I'm doing it and not kind of going all in of like I have nothing else going on for years. Well, I must build this because again, we have this I think holistic life piece of I want time with my daughter. I want time with friends. I want to be able to take care of my health, like have time for spiritual practice, get out in nature. So sometimes, again, it's just that, if we're always, if there's always going to be more, if we're on a growth path, there's always going to be more goals and more things calling us. And it just may be, do we have do we make peace with that? It might take us a little bit longer to get there.
So this is assuming your question. What would you shift if you allowed yourself to take a long-term approach to this new journey in life?
Mm-hmm.
It assumes you have a journey in life. You have determined, as you had said earlier, you have determined your purpose. That and is this in alignment? I really believe in our core. That in our core, each of our cores are different, and that the overused word, which I still love, is authenticity. Is to be authentic with who we are in our soul, in our deepest inner self, and that assumes that people have done that. And if you haven't done that work, then you're just shifting for the sake of shifting, without a direction.
Yeah. And I think the direction can evolve, especially when it's soul and intuitive based. We'll often get the next thing right now. It won't show us the entire journey. Our logical mind wants to know, like, for the next 20 years, like, what exactly am I doing and where am I going to go? Because with that subtle intuitive shift, it's like we could reach a goal, we could arrive at something, and then because I think it's relationship with the divine piece. It's like who we're becoming in that journey, right, and how we're evolving and how we're growing. And it's like we won't be the same version of us when we keep engaging in that process. So we may be
ever evolving. I talked to somebody last week or a couple weeks ago about purpose, and she was saying your purpose evolves in your life. And I've never heard anybody talk about an evolution of purpose. But purpose is an evolution. It is constantly not changing as much as growing. It's moving in a different direction based on experience, based on what you've learned, what you gather, and all of a sudden you said, I've just never thought this way before, so I need to, now's the time to think differently.
Yeah, and every time we're at an edge of growth, it's like we're developing new skills, we're becoming a different version of us, but then we can go a certain length down that path and we might master a lot of things or know a lot of things we didn't know before. And then if we are on a growth path overall in life, like at some point we may want to explore something else, even if it's just a different, like developing a different part of us. Some people might want to garden, or like they retire and like really devote themselves to something else that they weren't able to while they were working. They might have more time with family, more volunteer time. Like, I don't think it always has to be, I don't think our purpose, we can get really hung up on purpose as like career and the work we're doing, but it can be,
right.
Purpose can be many different things, and it can change and evolve.
And if you have my purpose, which is to experience wonder, it's wide open. It's just wide open. Whatever sounds cool, I'll try it. I try foods. Just in Asia, and I was in a restaurant in Hong Kong that spoke no English. None. I was taking. We had a guide for the day, and the guide said, "You want real Chinese food? Go to this restaurant. They speak no English. They serve no." He called us white people, which is I never heard Asians call us white people, but Asians said they serve no white people, so you will be completely on your own. So we just went in there and just tried food. They said just serve us. We don't know. We couldn't communicate, and it was they had a beautiful time. We had a beautiful time, and it was the food was tremendous. So that's just part of experiencing. I'm not looking. Well, I don't eat steaks anyway, but I'm not looking for a steak and mashed potatoes. I'm looking for something different.
Yeah, and that is knowing yourself, and like you said, what lights you up. Have you heard of sensation seeking? The sensation seeking self-test? The sensation seeking self-test?
Never heard of it.
Okay, it's on Dr. Elaine Aron has it on her website, but I would guess you're probably higher in sensation seeking, because again, it's not right or wrong, but it's knowing like who you are, like how you're wired. Just like you said, everybody's soul's a little bit different. Where some
Right.
people, if they are like sensation seeking, is more, do you genuinely enjoy new experiences and like healthy adrenaline and out of your comfort zone and trying different things, evolving. And usually for people who are higher, we need that in a healthy way, or we can start to like subconsciously like, get some chaos going that may not be helpful. Whereas people who are really low in self sensation seeking, like that, your trip may have been their nightmare, and it's not right or wrong. It's
Oh,
just knowing who
yeah.
you are and what actually works for you. Yeah,
Yeah, that's funny. My trip could have been somebody's nightmare. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. What I did is I am, we don't know each other well, but I'm an introvert. Pretty,
mm-hmm.
pretty. Except I'm a very social introvert. I do well
Mm-hmm.
socially, except I have
Yeah,
a pinhole leak in my battery, and so I run out
mm-hmm.
of energy. So I'm very
Yeah,
into energy, and I
yeah,
need to
yeah,
take time alone. That's why
mm-hmm.
these 2 days I've had of doing nothing but computer work, of trying to change over
Mm-hmm.
computers, it's making me nuts, making me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm an alcoholic and I quit drinking, but it's making me want to break out a bottle and just,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got 26
Mm-hmm.
years of sobriety, so it's not going to
Yeah,
happen. But,
yeah.
but, it's
Yeah,
just,
on the journey to figure out the computer, you might need a break in there so that you don't.
I did last night. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was late. So let's go
Mm-hmm.
to the final question,
Mm-hmm.
you did such a great job on these questions. But again, to our listeners, what are the biggest challenges you are facing with finding contentment and peace right now in the present? What is a challenge? What do you have a challenge that you face right now in finding contentment and peace?
Yeah, I think like there's a lot of things that I would say that probably apply for a lot of people as well too, where sometimes it's more, it can be kind of subconscious. It can just be our monkey mind to say like if we get caught up,
Yeah.
it can be some of our habits to say like are we taking that time to, whether it's like meditate, go for a walk, like find some wonder here or there, or like do we get hijacked by our logical mind and like the to-do list, the next steps, doom scrolling, things where it's like, oh, this just makes me feel worse of
Yeah.
things. And it's there's a time and place. It's not about just bypassing and everything's good all the time. Like we're humans, we have to feel all the emotions and ride through them, but
Oh my
there are
goodness, you
times too
must.
where we can make it. Yeah, yeah. And then there's times where we can kind of make a choice too to be like, well, okay, can we take even just a few moments to like connect with that divine, to settle in the moment, to slow down where we can, to appreciate the little things or the stuff that does bring us gratitude versus
Yeah.
always like the next, the next, the next.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah.
Yeah, some of it, I like it's a simple phrase, but paying attention. Really
Mm-hmm.
paying attention to the now, paying attention to
Mm-hmm.
what's going on now. And that really means a lot, brings a lot to
Mm-hmm.
the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and creating habits that help anchor us into that even when we are, because it is that balance of staying connected with that divine, but we're in a lifetime where there's like stuff to do and there's to-do lists, and for me, I'm in a pretty busy season of life, and it'll be so
Yeah,
there's
you
like those
are. You
moments
are.
of
As I
connections, and
read
then
your,
there's
your
yeah.
blogs, you
Yeah.
are a busy woman.
It
Well,
won't
Kate
always be
Turner,
like this,
that
but yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
you're high on my list. I
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I read this post, I want to tell the audience. As soon as I read your blog, I sent you an email. I said we need to chat about this on
Mm-hmm.
air because you were so brilliant. I really like the way you think.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
And thank you for coming on to the next chapter with Charlie.
Thank you for having me back.
It's great to have you. I'm sure this is not the end of our relationship. It is evolving.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sounds great.
so I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the next chapter with Charlie. And until next, This is Charlie Hedges signing off. Bye for now.